So to bring us up to today, like your view on AI, we just had a little bit of a conversation before we started that, but let's talk specifically on how you think AI is going to disrupt Main Street businesses, real estate brokerages, white collar services, and then just some of your macro view on how people survive and thrive in that space.
Yeah. I think these types of things, when they come with a lot of unknowns and potential like disruptions, and people are like, well, there'll be equal of this or that. And I definitely believe in that, like yin yang, like the positive and negative, they kind of will both be there in some capacity. And so you can never look at like one new thing it's fully positive or it's fully negative, right? It's going to be a mixture of both, and we don't know how it'll play out. But I think that this will be one of the largest changes that humanity has seen, like in a long time. I'm not sure what other technology we could, compare it to, because I think that the way that this technology will be adopted and come to market will be so much faster than other technologies like the internet. We can say, oh, the internet changed the world, and it did, but you and I were using Napster or whatever on dial-up a long time ago, 20 years ago, plus 25 years ago. And the internet wasn't like, it's not what it is today. All those jobs that were created and everything, right? So there certainly is some of that potential, but I think that the AI is going to happen so fast that we may not be able to see how the change is coming. Like with the internet, it was like we were building and adding. With AI, it's really going to be so fast. I think that's where we're going to be taken by surprise.
Welcome to the Exceptional Companies Podcast, a podcast for purpose-led entrepreneurs looking to master the art of buying, selling, or optimizing small businesses. Your host, Chris Seegers, founder of Exceptional Companies and author of Selling Main Street, has over a decade of experience starting, buying, and leading successful businesses. He's here to guide you through the complex world of business transactions and growth. Each week, we dive deep with actionable insights, expert interviews, and real-world strategies to activate and equip you to live exceptionally and build exceptional businesses. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Here's your host, Chris Seegers.
Welcome to the Exceptional Companies Podcast, where we discuss how to buy, grow, and eventually exit your business to serve your personal and wealth goals. I'm your host, Chris Seegers, and I'm joined by a good friend and an awesome guest, Brandon Behr with Brandon Behr Group. And we're going to talk more about AI. So Brandon and I had a coffee together, and he is a super fast-forward, growth-minded person where there's not a lot of those people, I think, that are just embracing AI. So Brandon, super excited to have you on the show. Welcome, brother.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. It's fun to be here. I love talking about the future things, and I think that AI stuff has been moving so fast, and just exciting time to be alive. That's for sure.
No doubt, man. All right, so before we get into all the great things that you're going to teach us and coach us on and provide for the audience, let's hear your story, man. Like, people want to know the background, how you got into real estate, why you got into cryptocurrency. You were big into that when we first met, and now AI is kind of a next segue. But tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, definitely. So, born and raised here in Colorado Springs, and jumping into real estate. It started off kind of as a joke when I was 17. My folks have been in real estate their entire life, still in it. And my dad just came home and he was like, hey, I wish I had, an extra agent on my team to run around and do all these things for me. And he just said, I wish you were licensed. And, at 17, you couldn't be licensed technically, but it just sparked that idea in my head and kind of in his head. And I was like, all right, well, let's just go. So I went to real estate school as a high schooler, when I was 17 at night after school. And then as soon as I turned 18 and took the test, got my license, a few weeks later, and kind of off to the races from there. It was a great time to spend my summers working for my parents, and a great way to get some experience out there in the real world while heading off to college to see, like entering that new phase of life with a lot of opportunities and things. So real estate was always that background there. Went to college, studied a lot of econ, finance, and then coming out of 2008, in the great financial crisis, it was an interesting job outlook, right? So, did a few random things, but then ended up kind of getting that call from my dad again and saying, hey, I really need a good agent to help fill in some things here. And, moved from Fort Collins back down in the Springs and started the full-time real estate thing again post-college. So, it was It's been a great time. I mean, I've been in it now essentially like half my life, and I love markets, and real estate is a great one to live and breathe every day. So, yeah.
That's awesome, man. And you guys have built collectively as a family one of the best firms in Colorado Springs and in Colorado. And we've sent a lot of people your way. You guys have excellent systems, which a lot of brokerages don't. You really are client forward and make everyone feel really great. But how did you, and you're still doing that full time and obviously have a lot of passion and expertise in that space. But tell me a little bit about how you started getting into digital currency and getting an interest in that. You're like me. If you like something, you like go down a rabbit hole and do it for a long time and get to be really excited and interested. And so tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say like I have that bent for research and learning. Like that's what really feeds me. So, kicking it all the way back to high school when I was about 15 years old, I read the book A Creature from Jekyll Island. And, when I was even younger than that, I was always like doing odds and ends jobs and told to save my money. And I would save my money, but it always felt like the things that I wanted to end up saving my money for just got more expensive. And so it just kind of messed with my mind, right? And then as I was 15, I was just always searching for things and wanting to know how things worked. And that got me into the economy and searching for like, how does money work? All of these things. And really from that point on, it was like, okay, I can see there's some discrepancy here with what I'm being told and what I'm seeing. And that just played out as I got older, went to college and studied econ. I really realized that we don't really understand what money is as kind of a civilization, as a culture. We kind of toss it around a lot. Sometimes it was, when I was younger, it was like, don't talk about money, and now I think it's being talked about a little bit more. But, I mean, I think for me, it's like, we have to understand what the fundamental of money is. And when I kind of figured that out, that's when, my mind really exploded, right? So, and I guess just to lay the foundation, right? Like I think money in the way that I look at it, it's our time and energy in an extracted form, right? So we each go specialize in something, do our thing all day, and then trade that for dollars so that then we can go and trade that for goods, services, or save for the future, hopefully, right? I think when I figured out that the government can print that money and eventually, immediately debase my time and energy, I realized that I have to do something more than just saving. And, so I was like, I got to get out of this dollar thing. Like, where do I put it? And I've seen a lot of people do really well in real estate. I think that's a big piece of why I was like keyed in on real estate, is that real estate becomes this thing that Americans really pour a lot of their time and energy and money into as an investment so that they can kind of keep up with things as the dollar continually gets debased and, you're losing your time and energy every day. It's like this slipping away from you. So you kind of have to stay ahead of the curve. And that's honestly where Bitcoin was like, there's an option for me that has a limited supply. It's not controlled by a single entity. So all of these principles of like good sound money, right? Like gold used to be a sound money. And I just look back at history, and when we had better forms of money, civilizations were in better positions. And so really my entire life focus became around the money and following the money and just tracking how that kind of works. So yeah, I mean, crypto became, and really I always say it's Bitcoin, not crypto. I think cryptocurrency had a really big day in the sun for the last 10 years. And now I think we might be sunsetting on some of that. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes, because we are on this precipice right now, I think, of kind of introducing digital currency or cryptocurrency, as people would say, into like everyday life and things that like people won't even realize they're using it soon enough.
So what's your view on Bitcoin? Because you've been in it a long time. So how do you think that currency has matured? And then I want to circle back to the philosophy behind money and kind of government manipulation, because I think that's a topic that we should dig into. But give us your view on just Bitcoin today and where you think it's going and why you think it's a good alternative.
Yeah, I mean, I think why is really that biggest thing is it can't be debased. There is code, and it's very hard, like on the front end, to convince somebody that the code is, unbreakable essentially, and what it uses as security protocol, but it's like all part of the journey of understanding. But Bitcoin has a little bit of a different start than all the other cryptocurrencies. It wasn't the first cryptocurrency. There was many that came before it. So, that's the other thing, is people think it's just the first one that hit all the principles of this sound money and has been shown to be a proving factor throughout time. And that's kind of the thing. I think most people, you have to come around Bitcoin at least like a few times before it clicks in your head. I mean, I know for me, it was probably about 4 or 5 times. I heard about it in 2011. And then again, when WikiLeaks came out in 2013, and it was one where I was like, there's just no way this is going to make it, right? The government will stop this. But watching it go through that made me like, how did it survive this? And then you investigate it and you find out the principles of it, unconfiscatable. You can't make more than there is. It's just fundamentally so solid. And that's the thing where we went from this gold piece where it was like really hard to produce. It's limited in some supply. In the digital age, we needed something new for that. And Bitcoin kind of fits that bill. And really nothing else can come close to it, at this point. So it's interesting.
As you think about like de-risking against the US dollar or any sort of currency, are you still a proponent of like, hey, we made $200,000 this year, 500,000, whatever the number is, we want to get X amount of dollars out of US dollars and convert it to, or do you have some sort of portfolio approach that you use for X amount in Bitcoin? Or how, like, as you think about somebody that is like, hey, I believe in it, how have you kind of solved that equation personally?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of like a couple roads, like, and I might be a little bit on the extreme side of it, but I've just really hold mainly a couple assets, and that's going to be Bitcoin and real estate. And the more I get into Bitcoin, it's just like, how much more can I dump in now? And that's just been over time because you learn the principles. And so for me, it first started from just dollar cost averaging. I got into mining in 2017. So I was into the casino with the crypto coins and kind of had a really fun journey. I mean, I got 4 of my best friends in with me, and we had the GPUs and we were doing all the things. And, we took a, $8,000 investment in 2017 and ripped that up to about $400,000. And, of course, nobody exited at the top, which is always the fun part of it. But it's like a good journey to like ride something and see it explode. And then also to implode. I think that gives you a lot to think about, right? So that was the interesting part of seeing like, oh, wow, this just took off, but this one's gone. Bitcoin is still here, and it's like, okay, I just got to continually be saving in Bitcoin and just in stacking it for the future, right? Right now it's been working on those 4-year cycles with the business cycle. But I think in the future, we're going to see that decouple a little bit as it gets wider adoption. Like right now, it's the 7th largest global asset, I believe, by market cap. I mean, that may have come down since its peak in October. We were at 126K. Now today we're at 63.4. But it's a $2 trillion market cap now. So, I mean, it's gaining popularity. I'd say up until last year, it was still something that I was like, kind of, does this going to go or is it not? You're always wondering. But it was really my belief in that it's not the dollar. I used to buy precious metals, and those just kind of sat there for 10 years until this year. So it's just another option for me that I felt like I'm not holding dollars, and this just is a better way that I know that it can't be eroded over time. And that's what like really wants me to share it with people. That's why I run the Bitcoin meetup, is because I feel like if anybody connects with me where they saw their savings just get eroded over time, Bitcoin is this thing like I don't have to think about like what the earnings are going to be, what product they're coming out with. It's not about who the CEO is at the moment. It's this asset that is like global and can be bought and traded around the world. You can go from border to border with it. I mean, it just, when you start looking at it, the reasons to get some Bitcoin are pretty massive. So
love that. And I want to touch back to your journey because I had a similar journey. So, the U.S. is incredible. It's the greatest science experiment in the world. And the reason we're so successful is we have the right to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? Not to achieve happiness, but to pursue it. And the fourth that's really critical is personal property rights. So a lot of countries, you really don't get to own property. And so what you found and what I found is, so you're building these rights, right? Like assets, could be stocks, could be businesses, could be real estate. And then you look up and you're like, hold on a second. They're not like stealing it from me, like taking my deed and saying, hey, the government now owns it, like happened in South Africa to some of our friends who are farmers, but they're just diluting the value of it through inflation and taxes. I'm a pretty low tax guy or no tax guy. to the point that they really are like taking away that private property right. And then you start figuring out, and here's my view, like individual citizens are always going to be faster and more innovative than the government. We're always going to find a way to thrive in the US specifically. But you go down that journey and you start saying, okay, like how do I utilize the tax code, right, to offset inflation? How do I use asset classes to offset inflation? How do I buy businesses that are going to grow with inflation that I can continue to pass those costs off to the clients and customers? But if you're an employee in that position, you're in the most difficult position you could be because you don't have leverage. And so with all of my team members, and we have quite a few now, I've said, guys, you're getting left behind. The government is taking more and more margin without you understanding it. If you've made the same money next year as today, you're losing. You've lost a lot of the value of those dollars. That's why you feel the pinch. That's why that dollar isn't stretching. You have to get into something that is going to offset it. And it sounds like Bitcoin is that for you. For us, it's always been buying businesses in real estate and just figuring out like, hey, how do we stay one step ahead of the government and figure out cool estate planning and tax planning strategies that are kind of going to offset a lot of that. But okay, so you deep dive Bitcoin, and I think it's a great asset class and something that folks should do some research and make their own decision on. But then we had really on the tail of that was where people started innovating in artificial intelligence, and it was already happening, but it just hasn't happened. So to bring us up to today, like your view on AI, we just had a little bit of a conversation before we started that, but let's talk specifically on how you think AI is going to disrupt Main Street businesses, real estate brokerages, white collar services, and then just some of your macro view on how people survive and thrive in that space.
Yeah. I think these types of things, when they come with a lot of unknowns and potential like disruptions, and people are like, well, there'll be equal of this or that. And I think I definitely believe in that, like yin yang, like the positive and negative, they kind of will both be there in some capacity. And so you can never look at like one new thing it's fully positive or it's fully negative, right? It's going to be a mixture of both, and we don't know how it'll play out. But I think that this will be one of the largest changes that humanity has seen like in a long time. I'm not sure what other technology we could, compare it to, because I think that the way that this technology will be adopted and come to market will be so much faster than other technologies like the internet. We can say, oh, the internet changed the world, and it did, but you and I were using Napster or whatever on dial-up a long time ago, 20 years ago, plus 25 years ago. And the internet wasn't like, it's not what it is today. All those jobs that were created and everything, right? So there certainly is some of that potential, but I think that the AI is going to happen so fast that we may not be able to see how the change is coming. Like with the internet, it was like we were building and adding. With AI, it's really going to be so fast. I think that's where we're going to be taken by surprise. The biggest thing right now is that the models were changed in 2025 of how they can program them. They figured out a way to program them a lot faster. So now we're just hitting that exponential hockey stick curve in the way that the models are learning and becoming better. And anybody that hasn't used a model since February 5th, 2026 is essentially like brand new to AI. I mean, I would say if you used a model before that date, it is a completely different product versus what they have out today. And that's what's changed my opinion of it, was that seeing something so drastic happen so fast. And then obviously these thought pieces that have come out on X and creating a lot of really good dialogue around what the future could look like. So, I think it's a really exciting time to be in business, and also a time that you've got to be really paying attention.
I love it.
A question that we love to ask our potential clients is, do you know what your business is worth? And if you sold your business today, would it fulfill your personal and financial goals? If you're a successful business owner, but you don't know when or how to sell your business, and if you've ever wondered what each additional day in your business is actually costing you, we'd love to chat. If you're ready to spend more time with your family, your friends, or traveling, come sit down with our team, because when you work with exceptional business advisors, we'll help you build a blueprint to sell your business successfully and help you create, capture, and achieve your dream life. Don't wait for the right time. The time's now. Go ahead and scan the QR code or book a discovery appointment at excoadvisors.com.
So let's get tactical, because that's how we see it, is like, how does our team use it every day? And even since our conversation that we had, which was only a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, all right, more time in AI. Like, everybody figure out how to use it personally and have your own personal account. And we're even happy to pay for it. Don't do any business there, but just play with it. And then here's the business account. Only do business here. Don't be doing any weird personal stuff here. But how, as you think about AI tools and a lot of our listeners, it was interesting. I went to an oil and gas conference last week. The smartest minds in the world, the U.S. dominates everybody in oil and gas. We're the best by a multitude. Like, we're the magnitude, we blow everybody away. And still talking to these 45-year-old CEOs of huge oil and gas companies, they're not really using it. They might kind of talk a little bit, but when I'm like, no, tell me actually how you're using, not just that you have it, not that just it's included, but like, how are you using it to evaluate a deal or drill a better well or raise capital faster or have your team more efficient? And most of them don't have a good answer. So that was really interesting. So I want to just say, okay, for somebody that is in business, what are some of the AI tools that have impacted you in your daily life? Where should somebody start? And then let's talk about the real estate space and where you see that going and how you're going to help your clients.
Yeah. No, that's good, man. And I think that those people, like those guys that they're kind of briefly using it. I think that in the next 6 months, their hand will be forced to actually okay, how do we implement this and what can it do? So yeah, tangibly, the first things, right? Like layer one, I think most people have already played with, and that's using it like Google. You enter it into the chat box and you spit out questions. That's really just basic kind of AI usage. When you get to the next layer of asking and saying, these are the things about my business or these opportunities, you tell me what might be things that I'm missing or, what to look at here. And so it's when you start to prompt the AI to give you the answers and have it give you information, based on what it knows about you. Now, here's the thing is the memory of these systems was really awful up until last week. So if you're going to do one, I would say, Claude, the Anthropic model right now has the best memory.
Why is that, Brandon? Do you know kind of what that uptick in memory and what happened? Because I don't.
Yes. So they are really, they each have their own flavor, each model, right? The frontier models, OpenAI, all that kind of stuff. But Claude is they're basically trying to beat this coworker, try to add agentic AI into their platforms. And so the memory is now they can store more context in that chat window, basically. So then when it can search your history of the chats that you've had, it has a better context of that chat that you've had and all the different chats that you've had. So it can pull a little bit more of each one of those in. Right now, it's just kind of looks at the headline essentially for all of your chats, and it knows that. Then when they upgraded the memory, now it can go full context more into your history. And then the next step of that is this piece OpenClaw, the agentic AI that's kind of blowing people's minds right now, is it has full unlimited memory because it sits on your computer locally. So that's the next step. And if you have something that can know all of your information and everything about you, if it will be able to do things for you that's incredible and spot your blind spots, and for our business, it's been something where I've spent a lot of time on market analysis. And over time, I've known that the market analysis are driven by data. And the big banks are using these automated valuation models because they're collecting so much more information. Every image that's scanned into Zillow, every new description, every time the home is sold, it builds that database. So they can give you a HELOC without ever coming and looking at your home. In 6 months, they'll probably be able to give you mortgages without really needing appraisers to verify things. Maybe just to go take pictures. But, I spend a lot of time doing that manually. And now I put my process into Claude. And then I went one step further, which is I think where people will go is I had Claude I just told it, hey, build me a website app that I can do this to. So it just takes me, 1 minute to do this process. And it went and built the app for me. I'm not a coder. And
did you build that in a workspace, or did you have to go into Claude Code and do something else and add additional AI?
Just right in Claude. Claude itself built me the entire thing. Now, it prepares it all. And then, you do have to have some accounts on places to host it. But that was just a couple clicks, and it gave me instructions on how to do that even. So I think that's where the power was. I took a process that used to take me about an hour to 2 hours, And I built a framework for my prompting, and then Claude built me a program and an app all within one day. And now my hour-and-a-half process goes to maybe 5 minutes, and then I was able to share this with my entire office. And, for me, it was like something I could build out as a product. I'm not a developer, but I could probably sell this because of the quality of it. So that's, I think the cool thing is if you're creative, the world's endless right now, because you can be the world-class graphic artist, a world-class coder, designer, anything you want. It's really awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're building an operating system that can be used in any asset class. You can use it to run a business. You can use it to run an oil and gas company. You can use it to acquire real estate. And it's 80% the same across all the platforms, and we own in all of those platforms. Nice. And what we're saying is, like anything that when someone says this is busy work, and it's really interesting. So I'm a believer, I think God created us to be creators. And we've kind of shrunken that way down to be like, all right, we just go to, hey, we're industrial revolution guys, and we go into the complex and we get a degree and we do a job, and it's just kind of like way below the level of what God created us to be. Yeah. And then we define that as busy work. We're like, oh, okay, I got to do my busy work. And it's like any of that is going away. Yeah. And the faster you can do that and use that capability to go create something new, and it could just be go create more value for your clients. Go spend more time with your clients. Hey, normally our client onboarding call is an hour. Now it's going to be 2 hours because I got time. And I really want to dig into the financial piece of your life, all these other things that we didn't have time to dig into. So it's fascinating. But once you start building that out, like, man, I've been spending probably 3 or 4 hours a night. Yeah. It's like, go, and we still have the same cadence. Hey, go home, phones go away, total time with the kids. And Tara and I hang out. Then she goes to bed early. And I'm like, well, either I'm going to read something, which is oftentimes, or the past 2 months, I'm like, there's so much fun stuff to build in this thing. Like you said, all the things you've been like, man, I wish I was a coder, or I wish I knew how to do valuation models, or I wish, now it's like, you can do those things. You still need to know how to do the math, the A to Z math, but it can help you get there. So I agree. I mean, I think it's just like a fascinating time to be alive.
Yeah. And it's like, right. So, I mean, I think we can really see the future with this product that Claude is dropping called Coworker. And this is one that ties in connections to like all of your, life. So your email, your grocery cart, your car schedule maintenance. I mean, everything it can tie into with guardrails. And that is a cool part, because you are seeing people actually getting to a point where it feels like the future instead of this clunky interface, like a product like I'm working on right now just for my own house is like for Leah to be able to easily text in through Telegram, say, hey, these are the groceries. Like I want to add this to the grocery list. The bot will automatically add all these things to our Instacart. And then on Friday or whenever day she wants to send it, just says, hey, check out on the Instacart. And so this is like a framework I'm building, and it's super easy and never been possible before. I would have had to pay thousands of dollars for somebody to make me an app, and now it's like, if you can think it, you can build it. And it feels magic, honestly. I mean, I think you feel like, and there's a good podcast I'll send to you, but it just talks about basically like we are playing with fire, and it's like that creation fire feel, like when it's so new and powerful that draws us to it. But we also know that we have to like understand and respect it, because what the capabilities are from like that Citrini research paper that they put out as like a future looking of what could happen if agentic AI really goes mainstream. I think it's like it gets to where there's a lot of people, white collar jobs can go by the wayside pretty quickly, because you can have a GPU doing the work of literally 10,000 people. I mean, one modern day GPU with these programs can now crunch numbers like 10,000 CPAs, and it works all night, all day. It's going to be crazy. And what happens is the cascade effect of one company just says, hey, we implement this. Now we no longer need your SaaS software, and we're going to cut that by so many seats. Then that company has a trickle down, and it just kind of compounds. Like we saw yesterday when this article was released, there was a massive dip in the market. And I think that that's how it could play. I think it's not going to be as much of a slow roll where it comes out and then something happens, but an AI could come out with a tool tomorrow and that could disrupt industries. And, those are things I think we don't have as much time to plan for. So it's kind of like, if you're not in there and playing with it, then you're not going to be able to see how you can use the tool to keep yourself afloat.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's what I've been telling everybody. Even if you're, 80 years old, get in there and start using it. And just when there's something that's annoying you in your life, figure out a way for AI to build that or to solve that problem. And another like tactical thing that, most people wouldn't think about. So getting your vehicle service, we have a dealership here in Colorado Springs that will send somebody to your house to do your oil change, tire rotations, everything. Same price, same exact price. They
nice.
just want you to be a recurring client. Now I can have Claude and have one of its agents actually call them, set it up. Here's my address. Here's blah, 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 and do all that. Right.
Yeah.
And they already have my payment information. So it's literally Saturday morning, we're going to go on a walk with the kids. Somebody shows at my house, changes the oil on my truck instead of sitting in there for 2 hours or having somebody shuttle me back and forth. That's something like those things were already inefficient. We knew they were inefficient. We're like, dang it, it's so annoying to get your vehicle service just because you got to get there, set it up, all those things.
Yeah.
But figure out ways to decrease the inefficiency. And then you talked about that the accounting CPA industry. I think that's a good analog. Everybody has known that's a miserable industry to be in forever. Mm-hmm. In fact, one of my brothers is in it, and it's like, it's just terrible. It's like, part of your life is good, but then when it's tax season, it's horrible. You don't have any quality of life. You got to put your family on hold. You're trying to serve your clients and do all their deadlines, but you're not doing that good of a job because you have too many clients. Mm-hmm. That is going to get streamlined where hopefully there's people that can do that job now in 20 hours and make good money and do a better product for their clients, which they will, because most CPAs make mistakes because they're tired and they're working too many hours. So I see like a lot of benefit. I do think there's going to be some big interruptions. And if you're in any sort of space that's not like, hey, I'm a plumber and I do plumbing, you need to be thinking about like, hey, what are the areas that and go in Claude and ask them, say, hey, next 5 years, how is this going to disrupt my job? And then what are some really areas that if I learned it, I could create a ton of value for other human beings and make even more money doing 10 hours a week? I think that possibility, I think a lot of people are going to get a lot of time back. And you and I talked about that this could be a problem if you get a bunch of people that used to work 50 hours a week, now have to work 20. We already saw that with kind of the internet where people were working 60 and now it's like 40. And then they're like, okay, so I'm going to watch sports more. I'm going to watch Netflix more. I'm going to be scrolling all the time. So I think people are going to need to put a lot of guardrails around their life to make sure that if you get time back, you're allocating it towards your faith and your family and your relation, like the things that actually matter, as opposed to, oh, great, now I work 20 hours a week and I'm really depressed because like, what do I do with the rest of my hours?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that. So how do you see human social interactions changing? And like, what does community look like? I mean, we had COVID that totally disrupted what community looks like. And I think people are trying to figure that out again. What do you think this looks like over the next couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, I am hopeful, on the one hand, because like normally I'm a pessimistic in my outlooks of things, but I think there's some hope that like this could bring around like a Renaissance type of age, and I think that's like, I want to look at it because if people have more time, I mean, you have Elon out here talking about universal basic income. I was talking about UBI like 10 years ago and I didn't even know about AI, just based on the way that our economy is going and things. And so, I think if we certainly have the ability to raise the level of standard of living. So like, our entire economy has been based around middlemen. And if we can use machines to basically like eliminate the middleman, then the value going back to the individual person could be massive. It just depends on like, does that switch go to the corporations or does that like tilt to the people? So I'm hopeful that it goes to the people. And then, if people could be so creative, I think, like you're saying, God created us to be mini creators. And I think, when you get stuck in something that kind of you have to do because you have obligations for life and, it's not necessarily like drives you and ignites your soul and your passion, I think that could really come into effect. If I know I would love to have more time for art. I would, have more time to be with my kids. I think that would be great. That happens. I do feel like that will happen in more of a K-shape though. So it's like, if you have the tools you're using the tools properly and or you kind of like started off and have the assets like Bitcoin, real estate, things that won't get debased over time, then you will K-shape up. If you don't have assets when you're not using the tools, then like it's not going to be, it doesn't look too pretty on that side of things. So I don't know where it could go. It could create a lot of like unrest in classes or just even bigger separation between the rich and the poor.
The beautiful thing here, and this is, I'm just talking about the
Yeah.
US, but like with AI, before we had said, hey, there's still some inequality, but in the US, man, if you're an immigrant and you work hard, you can be a multimillionaire for sure in the US. Like we have the system set up.
Yeah.
With AI now, it's all up to you. Like you're
Yeah.
either going to get left behind or not. Like everybody can get in there and do things they never could have done. You can be a middle school, dropout and just say, hey, I'm going to start learning this stuff and figure out how to create value in the marketplace. And you're going to be great. So it still goes back to our ability to make our own decisions and free will, which I love. It's like, hey guys, it's all out there. The marketplace is always changing. You're either going to figure it out or you're not. And that's on you. That's not on the government to make sure that you get paid when you're being lazy and you're watching Netflix for 10 hours. So I love that. And I've told my team, guys, get out there and figure it out and figure out where your passion and the marketplace and the tools all kind of intersect. And that's where you can make great money and offset any degradation that's going to be there. I just also believe in the market. The market's going to correct. So these big companies start making a ton of money. Well, guess what? Invest in the companies because they're not just going to keep that money, right? If they're a public company, they're going to distribute it in some sort of dividend or growth. Like figure out the winners and then align with those winners and either buy the stock or, own the company personally or own the real, like whatever those things are going to rise. Do a little research. And now you can build your own agents to be doing this when you're sleeping. Hey, I was just spending like hours with Claude saying, all right, let's talk through a 10-year plan of how this is going to evolve, how humans are going to interact, how the marketplace in the US is going to interact. Like, let's just figure it out and start thinking through it. And then let's have that conversation once a week and see what has changed. I don't know, man. I'm really excited, but you should only be excited if, like you said, if you're putting this stuff to practice. That's cool, man. So
I was going to say, there's going to be a ton of millionaires come out of this and people that have, like you're saying, very little education, formal education. It's going to be awesome to see because it's going to have this ability to let some people just create really cool stuff that would have never been possible before. So that's going to be really cool.
And that's where like the US is going to crush everybody else. We have always been the greatest innovative company in the world. And now whoever wants to, you've got the freedom to do it, right? This is not a country where if you make money, the government's going to come take it like Venezuela or Russia or China. Like if you want to build something and own the IP, you could go do that tomorrow. And like, it's going to be crazy and it's going to be fast. So I don't know. To me, it's just like, man, if you're in the US or if you live in a country that allows you to have those freedoms, like get after it and go build something amazing. So my grandpa's 96 and I spent 3 days with him. And it's really interesting, like sit down with folks that have been around a long time and get their perspective because he's like, you know what, we've seen this all the same. He's like, so he moved out to Texas when he was like 30 and Texas was just emerging as an economy. And he's like, I felt the same way. He's like, I knew there was going to be such a big boom. He was a poor farm boy from Indiana, worked his way through business school, had nothing. They were broke and they took a company public that was the largest home building company in the country. He had no expertise in that background. Like he just did the work and was like, I could feel it. I knew this was coming and I wanted to be part of it. I didn't know how to do it. I'm just going to put it into play. And he's like, I kind of feel like that's what AI is going to be for you guys. Like it's just going to be the greatest boom. You're going to be able to create things that no one thought they could create with there's not going to be that much regulation around it because it's not going to catch up fast enough. So anyways, I'm optimistic. Cool. Okay, so that ties into like as we get closer to the end of this. So 2 questions, and we'll start with this one. So words of encouragement for a young entrepreneur that maybe is freaked out, right? It's like anybody, it doesn't have to be a young entrepreneur. What are some words that you're like, hey, this is how you can think about this in a positive light?
Yeah, I think I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I think it's, you really have the ability, like in the Matrix, the movie, that thing has so many good references, but when Neo plugs in and he just starts downloading everything and then all of a sudden he is just growing his knowledge base, I think that's what AI can do for anybody. Anybody that has the most limited knowledge base, they can go into that thing and really start using it in ways that they maybe didn't know how, and then become these experts in all of these different fields that would have previously in the last, some people are just getting out of college that just spent 4 years trying to be, software developer. So, you have hundreds of thousands of dollars of education at your fingertips. And I think that's where you got to really just dive in and explore it all, because you can create world-class things without knowledge. And that's actually, that's where the future goes. Like, knowledge is going to become way less important because we'll have these knowledge bases. So you personally having the knowledge won't necessarily be the expertise, because the machines will have the knowledge. So it's, how do you use the knowledge? It's gonna be awesome because you have so many things you could build. You're not restricted. You got an idea, you can launch a website and put that product out today in that capacity. Yeah, the future is for sure bright. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun, man, to see everything happen. But yeah, you got to be buying assets. You got to be protecting the base layer, your time and energy. You can't be keeping it in dollars. So
I love it, man. Okay, so I want to close with the final question, which is a non-AI tool, book, resource, even a mental model on how to approach the future. But before that, Brandon, if somebody's like, man, this has been awesome and I want to hear more, I want to connect with Brandon, where should they find you? Or if they're just like, hey, I need somebody to help me with my real estate, what's a good contact place that they can connect with you?
Yeah, we've got our website online, brandonbehr.com, or you can just hit me directly at brandon@brandonbehr.com. And, I'm not huge on the socials, but definitely, in the email box. And then if you're interested in Bitcoin, here in the Springs, we've got a meetup, once a month. So super friendly group to come and learn all kind of aspects. So that'd be good on that side of it. Yeah.
Love it, man. All right. So final remarks. What's something that past couple months, it's not AI, but maybe has shaped how you view AI, or just a tool or mental model or something that you're like, man, people need to know about this?
I think that reading is definitely a big thing, right? Like reading books, and the older books, like books on the economy, books on how, the foundation of money. I think when we understand the money piece, that kind of shuffles everything else into place, at least in my mind. It's kind of the base layer. And then, get in and explore things. This AI thing is going to be crazy. The world is your oyster right now. So take advantage of that and, look for those opportunities in your niche.
What's really fascinating? So we've been building like this library at our office for clients, just like, hey, here's all the books have changed our lives, both on money and, philosophy, and just giving them away. Hey, we talk about this book. Oh, I got it over here. Let me give it to you. But a book that ties so neatly into AI is a book called As a Man Thinketh. And it was written I want to say 100 years ago, but it's really just around like how your thoughts shape your future. And now with AI, you can literally take that thought and manifest it into something physical or digital immediately. Yeah. So that would be a really good book to read that and get your philosophy and your mental model right of hey, I can build anything I want. This is how I should shape my thoughts. This is how they should go out into Claude or whatever it is. And then take that philosophy and go put it out into some sort of artificial intelligence model.
Yeah, it's cool. I love that, the unknown and the ability of things to see what people are going to create with all of this. So
say, man. Well, Brandon, thank you so much for joining us. It's been just an absolute pleasure. We'll have you back on, but really appreciate it. And we'll catch up with you on down the road.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. You guys have a good one. Take care.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Exceptional Companies Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or via RSS so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. If you liked this show, please reach out through our website, www.excoadvisors.com, for free tools to order a copy of Selling Main Street, or to sign up for our free webinar on how to sell your Main Street business.